Welcome to They Don't Tell. What is it exactly that they don't tell? Well, we're going to talk about a topic that you don't hear very much about, and that's child sexual abuse. We're here to shed some light on an area that too often carries so much shame, silence, and secrecy. Have you ever heard that saying, what goes on in this house stays in this house? Well, we're not going to let that happen. What we say is hold your head up high. You have nothing to be ashamed of. So come on and join in the conversation with us right here on Worship Radio Detroit. Good afternoon and welcome to They Don't Tell. We're here today to discuss a topic that you don't hear talked about very much in the public forum, and that is child sexual abuse. My name is Lisa R. Gray, and I am a mother. I'm an author, a mentor, and more than anything else, I'm someone who wants to spread the good news that you no longer have to walk around in shame, secrecy, or silence. It's so important for us to bring this topic into the public forum. We find so many people, it's just amazing the number of people that have been sexually abused, yet and still it's a topic that's not talked about. And that's the purpose of this program. That's why we're here. This is only our second program, and I just thank you for joining us. We so appreciate the support that we've received, the comments that we received regarding our first program. So what we're going to do, and from here going forward, may be a little different. First, we're going to discuss what exactly is child sexual abuse and why is there a need for this type of a program. Then we'll also have a segment called Tell Your Story. And today we'll have my daughter, Nicole, who was sexually abused by her stepfather. She'll have an opportunity to tell her story. So let's talk about what is child sexual abuse. Well, it can be many things. It's varied. Child sexual abuse, it just hits a range of different things. It can be all the way from someone touching or showing pornography to a minor. That is child sexual abuse. To touching someone in your private area, to penetration in any of your private areas. So when we say what is child sexual abuse, we find over and over again, and most of the time you'll hear me say CSA, that most people don't even realize that they've been abused. That happens over and over again. We're finding that over half of our children have been abused before they even reach elementary school age. So it's really incumbent upon us as parents to talk to our children very early about a no-touch zone, about our private areas, about you do not have to touch anyone else. You should not be touching anyone else's area, and they shouldn't be asking you to. So that's what we want to talk about. Again, we are not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. We're not trying to reach into an area where people will feel they're so ashamed to talk about it. And we're not very explicit, but we do have to talk about it. Because the reason it's called child sexual abuse is because there was some type of sexual touch, contact, or again, there was pornography shown. So why do we have to have this type of a program? Well, first of all, this was never my intention. You see, my own daughter was abused. And once I found out, it was such a difficult thing to deal with, to find out that her safe place was never safe for her. It was very traumatic. It was traumatic for me. I remember going out trying to find some information on the topic, and we are finding there are many victims now who are starting to talk. And there's many books by them. However, that was not my case. That was not my situation. That's not where I was. You see, I was a mother, and I was a mother very concerned for her daughter. I've heard over and over again about the types of things that can happen to someone who's been sexually abused and how it affects them for the rest of their life and how it can be detrimental to them, to their progress in life. So I wanted to know as a mother, what is it that I could do now that I'm aware? What could I do? And I went on a search. I went on a hunt looking for something, and I wasn't able to find anything. So I tell you what I did do. I went to the Lord, and I certainly recommend that for all of us, anyone that's in that situation, or if you find a family member, you do want to take this to the Lord, because that that person has been offended in a way that can touch their very soul. So we did that, and the Lord showed us what to do, and we did some good things according to what He wanted us to do, and my daughter's in a good place. And because of that horrific experience, because of it was so bad, I cannot begin to tell you how difficult it was. But you know, some things are difficult, but that does not mean that we can't get through it. We can get through, no matter what your situation might be. You can get through it with the help of our Father, with the help of the Lord Jesus Christ. You can make it through. And I'm so grateful to being on Worship Radio Detroit so that we can spread the good news. That no matter what your trauma might have been, no matter what your experience has been, you can make it through. The Lord will help you get through. And He did that with us. And after the fact, after the healing, after we went to court, I was talking with my daughter one day, and I said, Nikki, it just seems like I need to talk about this. I need to write about it. And she said, yes, Mom, go ahead. So with her blessing, we wrote a book, and it's called They Don't Tell: Child Abuse from a Mother's Perspective. And since that time, we went around the country with our book, and we found so many people who've never shared their story before. There's so many men, so many women who talked to us for the first time. They were in their 50s, 60s, 70s. There was one lady who was in her 80s, had never told anyone until they spoke with us. So the Lord put it on our heart to start to interview some people, because He does not want you bound up with that. He does not want you just still on your mind every day. You can't get through it. It's still affecting you. So one of the things that we're going to be doing on this program is we're going to be interviewing people who are ready to tell their story. Certainly that's not for everybody. That may not be for you right now. Or maybe that is for you. Maybe you are someone who's ready to talk about what happened to you. I encourage you to contact us. You can even call in. Our radio telephone number is area code 313-216-0674. And we will have a segment where you can call in and talk with us. But right now, we just wanted to take some time to talk about exactly what it is. Is it something? What are some of the signs? What are some of the symptoms that you can look out for? So one of the things I wanted to go over with you is what some of the symptoms are. And every child is different, and some children may not even display any symptoms, but there are some emotional things that you might see. You might see that your child starts to become withdrawn. You might see that your child starts to have nightmares, or they start to be afraid. They start to have headaches, or they're always having stomach aches. Different children react different ways, and it depends on what your child's developmental age are. We even see children who have been abused that smear feces on the wall. Different children react different ways. But what we want you to do is start to talk to them about it, let them know that it's a safe place, that you are a safe place, no matter what they may have experienced, no matter what someone else said to them. You know, you don't know if your child was threatened. You don't know what happened. So you just want to make sure you talk to your children about their private areas, and that if someone's touched you, I need to know about it. That we don't keep secrets from mommy, that we don't keep secrets from daddy. No matter what someone else said, you don't have secrets with anyone. You have to talk to us, the parents together, talk to the mother, talk to the father. And then one of the things you want to do is make sure that your child feels safe enough to say, if it was someone in the home, has daddy touched you? Has your stepfather touched you? Has your uncle? Has your brother? We find all types of child sexual abuse. A lot of it is intrafamilial, meaning it's inside of the family. We know as a professional counselor that 90 to 93% of all CSA happens with someone that your child knows, someone that you trust, someone who has a connection to your family. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a babysitter, a teacher, whether it's a minister, whether it's now we even find the Olympic doctor. It's someone that you have trusted with your child, and they didn't deserve it. They betrayed your trust. So that leaves a child very confused because they're thinking, well, my father trusts this person, but why are they doing this to me? So we have to make sure that we make our children very comfortable with it doesn't matter who it is. Makes no difference. I'm going to be there for you. And I have to speak to the mothers. Mothers, if your teenager comes to you and says, somebody's touching me, you have to believe them. You have to stand by your child. You have to support your child. No matter what someone else says, you have to stand with we have a responsibility as mothers to stand with our children. And I cannot even tell you the number of people that I spoke with while I was showing my book, or I was at a book fair, and I did have people come up to me and say, but my mother didn't believe me. And the trauma, the hurt, to find out that you're not supported. The one place that you expect support from is not there. That re-traumatizes your child. But if that's been your case, if that was you, let's say you were the person that was abused and you went to your mother and they didn't believe you, then I say to you that there's still hope, there's still healing, there is still help for you. Don't let that become something that you wear on your shoulder for the rest of your life. And a mother, if that was you, if you did not believe your child, it's not too late for you as well. You can go back to your child. You can go back to your son. You can go back to your daughter and apologize for not believing at the time. Wherever you were mentally, whatever was going on with you, we find so many times that the mothers are actually being controlled. They're actually in an abusive relationship themselves, so they don't even know how to respond. If that was you, you can go back and apologize. You can be human. You can say, I should have been there for you. I should have helped you. I wished I had. It's okay to apologize to our children. We cannot pretend that we knew everything and we weren't. It's okay. And that doesn't mean that you have to wear any guilt or shame. One of the reasons that this program is here is because we want to talk about no guilt and no shame. Hold your head up high. You were deceived. If you were deceived, you do not have to walk around with condemnation. Hold your head up high and know that you have nothing to be ashamed of. So we're going to take a second, and then we're going to come on and we're going to talk with my daughter, Nicole, and we will be right back. Give us 1 second.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Neill, agent owner of the Nancy O'Neill Insurance Agency with Farmers Insurance. We're located at 36880 Woodward Avenue in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. We specialize in home, auto, business, and life insurance. We offer 50 products for your convenience, including our new Smart Home and Smart Auto coverage, which offers customizable coverage plans for you and your family. Contact our agency at 248-750-0973 or visit us online at farmers.com/NONEALE. Remember to get smart about your insurance.
Welcome back to They Don't Tell. We're here today with my daughter, Nicole Gray. Want to say hi?
Oh, hi.
This is my daughter, Nicole, and I have to tell you that she's quite the young lady. I'm so glad to have her on with us today. Nicole has agreed to, first of all, me writing the book, and that's not something that everybody could do. So I have to say to you, my daughter, whom I love very much, I appreciate the fact that you are willing to share your story with the world and that you continue to share your story. That you now are standing by me as we do this journey, and I appreciate you.
No problem.
I love you.
Love you too.
So, Nicole,
Yes.
let's go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go back to the time when I first married your stepfather.
Okay.
Okay. How old were you? Do you remember?
No. That was a long time.
Do you remember what grade you were in?
Nope.
What do you remember?
I was young. I don't know. I don't remember the time frame. No.
Okay. Well, first of all, before we do that, let's talk about what you're doing right now.
I'm in a excruciating bachelor's degree program for my nursing license. It's excruciating.
Does that mean it's good?
It's good, but it's rough.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're studying to get your
Bachelor's degree.
bachelor's degree in nursing.
Yes.
So when you're finished with that, what will you be able to do with that degree?
Everything. It's just going to open up a bunch of doors just because it's a bachelor's degree and everybody needs nurses. So really the sky's the limit with that.
Do you have any type of area in particular that you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about labor and delivery, but after clinical rotations, I think I'll have a better idea of what I want to do.
Okay. And what are the clinical rotations?
Just going to different hospitals for different classes. Yeah. It'll give me more of an idea. Be doing different areas, that kind of thing.
I have to say, Nicole's been doing nursing since high school.
CNA,
Yep,
And
started
then
out as a CNA, and then she became a
LPN.
LPN, and now she's going for her BSN. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to go for a master's degree?
Absolutely. Nurse
Oh.
practitioner, yes.
Okay, nurse practitioner is the ultimate goal.
Yes.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
What else would you like to share with us? Where'd you go to school? You want to share it with your listeners?
Right now,
Yes.
where I'm going to school at?
No, either way. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to Chamberlain. I went to Port Huron High. Is that what you're looking for?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she's in school right now for nursing. So let's talk about, let's go back a little bit and let's talk about what your story is. Because the name of this segment is Tell Your Story.
Oh,
So you were young when I married your stepfather.
uh-huh.
And what do you remember about him?
He was a good guy. I think you met him in church. I don't know. But very involved, a lot of activities, always had lots of stuff going on, fun times.
Very active?
Yeah, yeah. Fishing, trips, everything. Golfing, community-wise, very active.
So when did things change for you?
What do you mean?
When did things change? When did he begin molesting you?
I don't know. I don't have a time frame for that. I know I was young. I don't really know when that changed.
Did you know what was happening at the time?
Did I know, as in, did I know that it was wrong?
That's what I meant.
No, not at the time. I was young, like I said.
Okay.
So not until later, I kind of put things together. I was like, you know what? Something about this isn't quite right.
Let me ask you this: for your particular story,
Mm-hmm.
where did you find that he was molesting you?
Explain your question better.
Where? I'm
Where?
talking about physically.
Oh.
Where? Was it at the house? Was it at church? Was it in the
Oh.
car?
It was more at home or in the car or places where it was just he and I. So, yeah, home more than not, in the car, and I think a couple times we went places just he and I. That's where it took place.
Okay. So he was molesting you inside of your home,
Yes,
and this went on from.
I believe you and the officers put that time frame together. I don't have one. I don't really know.
Okay.
A long time.
Until I divorced him.
Probably.
Okay.
I don't remember that either.
Okay. You know, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's good. But you know, many times you'll find that people who have been molested, their memories, that some things that they blocked, you'll hear that over and over again. And sometimes they block some of the details, and as sometimes things will happen, triggers will happen, and things will come up. Do you ever have any triggers?
Yes.
What kind of triggers do you have?
Sometimes when I watch TV, like Law and Order SVU, or if I hear, if somebody's telling, or they happen to say their story, and I'm like, oh, that kind of makes me remember this or that. But Yeah, I don't remember a lot of stuff.
Okay.
It's kind of just happened that way. I don't know.
I would remember one of the things that happened for me once Nicole finally disclosed to me that he had been abusing her, and I was trying to replay it in my mind, like when did it happen or where did it happen? We were foster parents, and I remember, and we took in a family of 4 siblings. So we had our children, we had a family of 4 siblings, and I kept remember saying to Nikki, even during that time, and she was like,
Yeah.
even during that time. I was just so blown away. It just I didn't know. So what would you like to share with the people? You tell your story.
Well, I just like to encourage people to talk about it. You know, once you get over the shame or the guilt or just not wanting to talk about it just because of the nature of the conversation, once you get past that and you kind of just set it all on the table, it's much lighter to walk around and easier to talk about from there on out. Like, I don't have a problem answering any questions to anybody. And a lot of people ask me, is it hard to talk about? You don't feel embarrassed? Or no, I don't have any of that. I talk about whatever, as long as I remember it.
My God, freedom. There is freedom in telling your story. That's what I'm just hearing Nicole say. There is freedom in no longer walking in any shame, no guilt. There is freedom in telling your story. There's freedom in letting someone know this is what happened to you, that you were violated. So many people are still walking around with that same violation from the time that it happened to them. And that's why we're here, so that you can get some freedom, so that you can get some deliverance, so that you know that you don't have to walk around with the guilt, the shame, because that's really what our enemy wants you to do, wants you to be affected by it for the rest of your life, and that does not have to happen. And I have to tell you that when it first happened for you, Nicole, if you go back to that time, it was very difficult.
Talking about it.
It was very difficult.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that it happens like that. It's not an overnight process. It was very difficult for Nicole. Not only was it difficult, it was even difficult for you to focus on anything, even during school. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't doing nothing. Failing real hard.
Talk about that for a little bit.
Well, being that I hadn't talked about it before and then telling you, and then that's when felt like life changed because I had to talk to everybody about it over and over. And that's when you don't want to talk and you're like, I said this. They want to make sure you're not lying, you know, just constantly wanting to bring back. So when did this happen? How did this happen? Where were you? And you don't really remember, or I didn't really remember all those details. So when it was time to go to school, I'm just like, I just want to sleep because at night I'm going through, well, I got to talk to this person tomorrow and they're going to ask me this. And how am I going to say this without sounding bad? And it's just your mind's constantly racing. So you're just not focused on too much of anything else.
And right after that happened, I do remember that Nicole was a mess, okay? She was a mess. We need to be very transparent here. That's the whole reason that we're doing this.
Yeah.
I would get calls on a regular basis from the school. So there was no big deal for me to get a call. But there was one day, Nicole, that you called me and she said, Mom, get here now. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell the people about that one. What grade were you in? 10th grade.
10th grade, yes. I was in 10th grade. I had found out that another person, family member, had been molested by the same person. So it's like, oh gosh, I got to tell somebody. You got to tell somebody. We got to share. We got to let somebody know. So that was what that call was about.
And I have to say that happens so often. People who are being molested feel like it's just me, I'm the only one. They do not realize that a molester does not molest one child. There's no such thing as a molester of one. They molest more than one. And what Nicole found out that particular day was that this person was molesting more than her. And since then, we found out others. But I'm saying that because I've even talked to sibling groups where they were all being molested. but they were all in their own silo. Everybody thought it was just me. It was just me. Nobody was talking to one another. They did not realize that they were not the only one that was being molested. So I really want to encourage you to talk. Talk to your family members. Talk to your siblings. You are not the only one. And more than not, when they found out, they were adults and found out, you mean he was molesting you too? And they're saying, yeah, it was me too. And not only that, but we've talked to people who were molested, and when they finally get away from that situation, they run away, they walk away, however they get away. But they leave that for the next person to be molested because they never spoke up. If you do not speak up, if you do not tell somebody, if you do not make it known that this is what was happening to you, you leave it to happen again and again and again, because molesters don't molest just one. I don't know of one that's molested just one. And even the research shows the number of children that are molested is absolutely ridiculous. If someone has that perverted spirit, the only way that's going to happen is some deliverance, or they're behind bars to stop it. Other than that, you're leaving the next person. And sometimes it's the next generation. So you finally got out. And you know to stay away from Uncle Charlie. But because you got out, that doesn't mean that Uncle Charlie has moved on. Uncle Charlie may have moved on, actually. May have moved on to the next girl, the next boy that's coming up. We have to speak up. We have to hold our heads up high, knowing that there is no shame in speaking about it. That it's necessary. Some things are difficult. I am not going to even tell you that this was not a difficult process. It was. And it was not an overnight process. But it was necessary. It was necessary for Nicole to speak up, to know that her mother stood with her, to know that I stood by her, I supported her, that I believed her, and that we were going to get through it together. Those same nights that she was struggling, I was struggling as well. It was a struggle. But I'm telling you that you can get through it, and I am so glad that my daughter is sitting here. I was going to say standing here. I'm so glad that my daughter is sitting here whole. That's the whole point. We want to be whole. Nothing missing, nothing broken. You can be whole again. But you're going to have to do the work. It does take work. And it does take standing up. It does take some strength, saying this is what happened to me. But I want you to know that that's what the Lord expects us to do. You know, it is not a good thing to sit in silence, isolated all by yourself, not telling anybody, ashamed. And you know what? That's where the enemy can really just take over your mind. He wants to destroy your life. Remember, the enemy only comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And he had an assignment on my daughter's life. But you know what? God stepped in. And the way he stepped in was through us speaking up and saying, hey, you're not going to go around here pretending that you are that in a bag of chips when you are molesting children. We will not allow you to continue to walk around like a proud peacock with everybody thinking that you are this, that you're doing this, and no. And you've molested my child? Oh, the devil is a liar. No. That's not going to happen. You know what? We stood up and we said, and I don't know if Nikki remembers some of this, but I'll never forget this conversation I had with her. We talked about going to the police. Nikki, do you remember some of those conversations, those first conversations?
Can you jog my memory?
I remember it was myself and my two brothers. I have two brothers, and we talked about it with you. And we talked about going to the police. Mm-hmm. And do you remember what you said?
No.
I do. I remember that like it was yesterday. She said, but he's a good guy.
Oh.
You remember that?
No, I remember you talking about it though.
But he's a good guy. And I just remember my head just coming off. This man has been molesting my daughter, And now there's a name for that. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome. She's saying that he's a good guy. Well, Nicole, good guys don't go around molesting their children. Because she was in the 3rd grade when I married this man, and he had been molesting her from that time. Good guys do not molest their daughters. Good guys do not pretend that they're all that in the back, that they're just so helpful. He's just a good guy. He was a minister of music at the church. He was this and he was that, and he would never do that. He helped, no. So there was no way that we were going to let this good guy continue to go around in the community knowing that he was molesting children, knowing that he had molested my child. There was no way that was going to happen. We were going to have to speak up, and we were going to have to do the hard work. We did go to the police, and I still remember, talking with Nicole, because she was having no part of it, okay? She was having no part of it. Because he was a good guy. And were you scared? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was scared.
You were
I didn't
scared.
want all that attention or the trouble that came along with going to the police, because I'm sure they were going to push a case, which they did, and all the extra stuff that comes with involving police in any type of situation, especially a situation like that in a small town.
And it was some extra stuff.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was.
We dealt with some extra stuff, as Nikki puts it. But you know what? It is what it is. Sometimes life just deals you some things, and you're gonna have to make a decision. Are you gonna roll up and die? Are you just gonna go into a fetal position, or are you gonna stand up? And I'm saying to you, whoever you are, no matter what your situation, somebody's gonna have to stand up and say, "Hey, get no, foul play, foul." So I was calling foul play. But what happened was, Nikki wasn't having any part of this, right? But my niece came, and my niece was about the age Nikki was when she was first started being molested. When, as you heard her say in her own words, she didn't even know it was wrong. She was that young. And I remember saying to you, look at Deja. That's what size you were when he started molesting you. Because she was 15 at the time that she finally told me. And I tell you, I saw the light bulb go off in my daughter when she finally realized how innocent she was, how pure she was, how perverted it would have been for any man to touch, any grown man to touch a child. And I'm going to put this in. You know, some of the things, we had a lot of backlash. And it's absolutely amazing to me, some of the things that people said. Some of the things that were said was, well, if that's the case, she, meaning me, I'm putting my daughter up to all this. Or, what was another one? She must not be taking care of her wifely duties. Really, folks? Really, folks? So you're saying to me that a grown man will start molesting an 8-year-old child because his wife is not taking care of his wifely duties. I'm telling you, the things that were said were just off the chain. But you know what we did? We did exactly what we told our daughter to do. We said to her, and we say to you, hold your head up high, because you have nothing to be ashamed of. You never invited this man to touch you. You never asked him to touch you. You were a child. And this man was abusing his authority and his place. And you know, one of the things that he continued to say to us, well, we can't be her father, but we're just here to help. We're just here to help. I'll say to you mothers, if somebody says, we just here to help, you better watch for your children. You better watch out for your boys and for your girls. Because we just here to help was not just helping. We just here to help was trying to destroy my child's life with their perverted self. There was perversion in the house. That's all I can tell you. There were some other things that we wanted to discuss, and we want to give you the telephone number. We're taking calls. Our telephone number here today is area code 313-216-0674. And I have to tell you that we are an open book. We're ready to talk about it. We want someone else helped by the things that we've gone through. I want to talk to you for a minute about the trial process, because the trial process was a process. It took over a year from the time that they arrested him and took him in for questioning until the time that he was ultimately found guilty. That was over a year. Do you remember that year?
Yes, that was a terrible year.
It was.
That was a rough year.
Tell us about some of the things that you remember.
About the trial, it was just long, back and forth, and you think you're going leaps and bounds, and then you have a setback here and a pushback of this date, and we want to redo this, and we want to pull different jurors and all that type of jazz. It was just awful. It elongated the process.
So the whole idea of the defense team was to make it long, was to do exactly what you said, just make it long and drawn out, as if we were going to give up, but we weren't. We were fasting and we were praying the entire time. We were fasting, we were praying, we were seeking the Lord, because we knew that an offense had taken place. And because of the offense, we were determined that we were going to have some justice, that Nicole was going to have some justice. She was going to have the opportunity to say, this is what you did to me, and it wasn't right, it wasn't fair, and it was not good. And because she had the courage to do that, and it took courage. And I have to tell you, she had a lot of support. She had a lot of support. She did not do that by herself. She had support. And even though you had support, did you still feel alone?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I had a lot. I don't know anybody personally in my family who didn't support me or call or come or do whatever, offer to, get away for a little bit, all that stuff. But it still was very lonesome in that time and hard to figure out, in which that time, that year, life completely changed for me a lot. I think I began drinking that year. I had a teen pregnancy that year. That was by far the worst year of life.
Again, it was very difficult. We're not going to tell you that it's not difficult, but because she went through it, and like you said, she hit on something. She hit on some of the things that happen to people who have been sexually abused. Over and over again, they start to self-medicate. So for you said you started drinking. Oh. I didn't know about that, by the way. But she did. But we're being transparent. So go ahead. No.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. We want to help somebody.
I didn't go from 0 to 100. I just started drinking. I did start having sex. I was not having sex before that year, but whoops.
And I have a granddaughter.
Just one. Yeah. So
they become promiscuous.
Yes.
I cannot even begin to tell you the number of people who are working in gentlemen's clubs, working as sex workers, that are doing things that have been molested. I'm telling you, it's a scourge on our society. And to just look at those people and say, oh, look at them, they shouldn't be doing that. You don't know their hurt and you don't know their story. I'm going to say that again. You don't know their hurt and you don't know their story. The women that I've talked to that were abused multiple times by different people in their family is ridiculous. They no longer feel their own self-worth, no longer feel their own self-value. So many of them decide, if this is what I've got to do, at least I'm going to get paid for it. And many of them are just so vulnerable to somebody coming into their life and saying, hey, baby, that a hey, baby is all they need because they've been used and abused, and that's all they know. We have to stop judging because we don't know people's story. We don't know what they've been through. We're going to have to, especially the body of Christ, we're going to have to look at people with eyes of compassion. Not just how they come into the church, not just what they're wearing and how they're showing everything they have, but what's behind them. We're going to have to stop for a minute and take a look at the little girl or the little boy that was not loved, that was hurt in that place. We have an obligation to do that as the body of Christ. We have to take a look and see what's behind those glassy eyes. What's behind the hurt? I see that over and over again. Sex workers, gentleman club, people that are hanging on a pole. Do you think they grew up and they said, when I grow up, I want to swing on a pole? That was not. But so many times drugs and alcohol, they become promiscuous because they feel like they've been thrown away. Nobody cared about them. Nobody validated them. Nobody stopped to take the time to see what's going on with you. And I encourage you that whoever you come across, because you're going to come across somebody that will share their story, if they trust you with their story, then I really implore you to step behind the scene and see what's going on with them. Take some time with people. Let them share their story with you. And then be confidential about it. You don't want to go around sharing their story if they're not ready to. Everybody's not ready to do what Nicole's doing. Mm-mm. By far, we have grown women that have yet to tell their story. So I love you and I applaud you because it's like she said from the very beginning, she's not walking around with shame. She's not walking around with guilt. She'll tell you. She'll talk about it. And I want that same freedom for you. I have to tell you that one of the things the reason that we're on this show, the reason that we have this program is that we know that there's so many people that are hiding. They're hiding behind shame. They're hiding behind secrecy. They're hiding behind their silence, and they feel so isolated. But you know what? It's time to come from behind the scene. It's time to tell somebody what happened to you. Nobody knows why you're acting out. You know, there's some people that are so touchy and they're nasty, just nasty. But you don't know what's going on. You don't know what their hurt is. You don't know why they continue to be 60 and 70 years old with the mini skirt on. You don't know what's going on. But the number of people that have been molested is just crazy. And some of it goes generation after generation after generation. You know, I had mentioned before that we wrote a book, and one of the things that we talked about in the book were the number of people who are celebrities that have shared their story. We know about the Oprah Winfrey, and we know about Joyce Meyer, and recently I read a story where Keke Palmer, I really loved that young lady. She played in that movie Akeelah and the Bee. You remember that?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
Because that's the movie that everybody remembers her from.
I love that movie. I loved Akeelah and the Bee. But she talked about her molestation and how it took her to a life of promiscuity, how it took her to a life of pornography at a very early age. So there can be consequences from this. There can be. But it does not have to be for a lifetime. So I'm saying to you, if you're ready to share your story, reach out to us. Get in contact with us. You can reach us at They Don't Tell on our Facebook page. You can reach us through our telephone number here is 313-216-0674. And we have another number you can reach us through. That's 313-757-0188. Again, the purpose of our program is to say that no more shame, no more secrecy, and no more silence. It's time to talk about this issue. It's time to get it out in the forefront. If you have any questions for Nicole, feel free to call. If you have any questions for myself, feel free to give us a call. So, Nikki, let's talk about one of the big issues for me personally, if you can remember. Okay, maybe I had more than one. She's smiling. One of the things, as mothers, we wonder, because as far as I knew, we had a good relationship. Mm. You knew that I loved you. Mm-hmm. Did you know that I would support you?
Well, I didn't think we had a good relationship, in my opinion. I felt like it was very surface level. So we have a bunch of kikis and ha-has and nothing deep. So trying to figure out whether or not you would support me was the furthest thing from my mind. I wasn't going to tell you.
And why you wouldn't tell me? Because you didn't think we had a good relationship.
Right.
And you said you felt like it was surface level. Mm-hmm. What would a good relationship have looked like for you?
I guess more talking about things other than how school went, just a little deeper. Just connecting a little bit more, I think.
And for me, I didn't realize that.
Well, yeah, that was the goal in that situation, I believe.
So, mothers, don't be where I was. As far as I knew, we had a good relationship. But Nicole was saying, well, no, it was just surface level. It was just surface level. We didn't talk about deep things.
Yeah.
What would have been something deep for you?
The sex talk. I always say that. Sex talk.
So we have to talk about it.
Yeah. I think I grew up in a household where I was never told that I had the good grades. It was just known. That type of thing. So
Say that one more time.
where you don't talk with your children about getting good grades, you just know that you have to get them. There was never like a sit down like you better not come here with a C or a D. You know to get good grades.
Okay.
Now as I got older, of course I got some C's and D's, and then you want to know like, oh, what's going on? But there was never an initial conversation that said, you need to do well in school.
So mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, have the conversations with your children. Have a conversation regarding school, what the expectations are, that you are expected to do well. You're not expected to come in the house with C's and D's. Have the conversation with your children about sex. What we find over and over again that most parents have a very difficult time talking about sex, as I did, because we did not have that conversation yet. What you said is true, because it was just an expectation that you understood, that you knew, but that was not the case. So one of the things that we do now, and we talk to our parents about, you might need to get a book. Get a book. Sit down and talk with your child. Have a book about sex. Have a book about molestation, about their body, about what to expect. And what are you doing now that you're a mother?
Yeah. It is difficult. I just keep thinking like, it's not time for that talk. It's not time. And I can see how that could be pushed back until, well, it's too late. Now that time has come and gone.
So your daughter is how old?
8.
So your daughter is the exact age that you were at the time that I married your stepfather. Mm-hmm. At the exact age that you were when you started being molested. Mm-hmm. Have you had a conversation with your daughter?
Absolutely, several.
What types of conversations? What can you?
Yeah, I want to know what you know first. That's how we start off. So do you know what molestation is, or do you know what sex is, or do you know what rape is, or any of those things? And then I see what she knows, and then I explain what those things are and what to do if you happen to be in a situation and how to go about handling that situation.
Okay, let's take that. Let's go a little further with that. Mm-hmm. Take us from the beginning to the end of one of the conversations you've had with your daughter.
Okay, we'll do sex. I don't know. We've been talking about that a lot lately.
Okay.
I want to know what she knows. So she might say like, no, or She wants to know where a baby comes from right now. We've had a lot of babies in our family.
A lot of babies in our family right now.
So she wants to know, well, how? So I want to ask her, like, well, what do you think happens? She just knows that your belly gets big and then you have a baby. So then we start, okay, no. So in order to have a baby, this is how I explain it. You have to be married. We know that's not the case, but that's what I'm teaching her, because that's what you want to do. That's the goal, mm-hmm. Right? So then, after marriage, you plan, you enjoy your marriage first. You don't just have a baby, just enjoy your mate first. And then, sex. You have to have sex to have a baby, because a guy has a penis, a girl has a vagina. In order to have a baby, those two people have to have sex, which is, we get real nitty gritty.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she has an egg, he has sperm, and then those two together make the baby. And then 9 months later, after the baby grows in the womb, the uterus, then the woman has to physically have that baby out of her vagina if she's lucky, because you don't want a C-section.
And that, for an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Now, Nikki was very graphic, and I'm saying to you, is that the kind of conversation that you're having with your daughters? Is that the kind of conversation you're having with your sons? I certainly was not graphic like that, but that was not good. So I want you to learn from my mistakes. The whole reason we're out here is to talk about it. And one of the things that we even did after we found out about her being molested, we had a conversation about sex.
Well, it was kind of late then.
It was late, but better late than never.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm talking to people who have told, it's almost like it's the elephant in the room, that they still don't talk about it. But one of the things that I wanted my daughter to understand is that if there was sexual abuse, that means that there was sex. And it still is not her fault. No matter how her body may have reacted over the years, and we're talking about years of abuse, no matter how her body may have reacted, that still does not make it her fault. And I have to tell you that was a conversation. I still remember the way you looked at me was like, okay, Mom, you don't understand. You don't know. But it was important for her to know that I understood that there was sex, whatever form it took, whether it was a touching, no matter it was pornography, whatever it was, because there's more than one type of child sexual abuse. There's a first degree according to law, second degree, a third degree. There's all these different degrees. But I just wanted her to know that we're not going to pretend that that didn't happen. And I don't care how your body responded, because the Lord made our body. And over and over again, what happens with this particular issue is that the enemy wants to take it over. He wants to pretend like that's his domain, and he's a liar. The Lord made sex, and he made it for a wife and for a husband. Mm-hmm. So he can't have anything. He can't take over that domain. He can't pretend like we can't talk about it as Christians. Yes, we can. And so many of our parishioners are sitting in the pews, and they've been molested, and they've been abused, or they've been traumatized, and nobody's talking. It's like you can't mention that word in church, but we can. You know why? Because God created, and everything that God created was good. So sex is good, and it's okay to talk about it. And until we, as a church community, until we, as the body of Christ, start talking about it in an open forum with our children, especially in this world that we're living in now, where the enemy is trying to take over sex. He's trying to pretend like that's his domain, but he's a liar. We have to take back everything that the enemy wants to take from us, and that is not his camp. Sex is good, and we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to have to stop being prudes, and we're going to have to talk about it. And I applaud you for having those conversations with your daughter. I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
What else
What else?
would you like to share with the people? What are some of the things? What would you like to share with mothers who are wondering why your children don't tell?
It's just a hard thing. You don't want to hurt your mother or father or whoever. You just don't want, like, I thought you were in this happy marriage, and I didn't want to ruin your, happiness. So just suck it up, buttercup. And that was it. So I just would encourage people to just talk about it. The more conversation you have, the easier it gets. And, I know you don't want to talk about it, but it's for your benefit in the long run and for everybody around you, like you.
What are you finding with your life now in terms of what's it like for you to have me going around talking about it, have a radio show, have this book? When it's the book, They Don't Tell, Child Abuse from a Mother's Perspective. What is it like for you to have me running around the world talking about your abuse?
Well, I don't think you're really talking about my abuse. I appreciate you saying we wrote this book, but we did not write this book. You wrote this book, and this is more so dealing with, how you had to find your way and deal. And I'm fine with it. I support you. You want me to do a couple pop-ups here and there? Hey, y'all. It's fine.
What would you say to someone who's going through what you went through, Nikki?
Keep pushing. Don't give up. Don't kill yourself. Don't let everything hold you down. Just keep pushing. It's like when you fail that first test, just keep going. You got to work a little harder, but you can do it. It's not the end. Probably can't see the end, but it's definitely there, just around the corner.
I think the other thing is, what would you say to the mothers that wonder why?
Listen. You must listen to your child. Whatever they're trying to tell you, just listen. That's a big deal. They want your support. I don't even think children are taught to, do things that make their parents happy. We just come out with that. We strive to make our parents happy. So, we want you to be proud of us. We don't want you to be disappointed or upset or anything like that. So when we're telling you something, just listen, whether it's, we need to get away or we got to talk about this thing that we don't really want to talk about. Just be that ear and listen and comfort.
That night that you came and said something to me, how difficult was that?
Well, I hadn't planned on saying anything to you, so it was very difficult. But you had other things planned.
What do you mean?
Well, I wasn't telling you that night. You forced me. She had my hand behind my back, not really, but that's what it felt like. And you wanted to know what was I talking about? What was going on? You finally caught the signs and you wanted to know. So,
it took 4 hours. Nicole came to me one night and said, Mom, if I had something to tell you, would you be a mom or would you be a friend? And I was like, what? What's going on with her? So we went up into my bedroom, and it took 4 hours for her to finally tell me. But she wasn't leaving that room until I found out what was going on, what was on her mind. And that was the night that I discovered that her stepfather had been sexually abusing her. We did go all the way. We did eventually go to court. We did tell the police. We did hold our heads up. And this is what we tell you. Hold your head up high, because you have nothing to be ashamed of. No more shame, no secrecy, no silence. Tell your story. Because by telling your story, you're helping someone else. And because Nicole did tell her story, there was someone else that he had been abusing as well. And the two of them ended up going to court, and he's no longer in a position to hurt anybody else's child. We say to you, on behalf of this program, we so appreciate your taking the time to listen with us. Share the story. Share the program. Let somebody know that we'll be on Mondays, 3 p.m., because we are going to talk about it. We're going to hold our heads up high. We're not trying to sugarcoat anything. We'll lay it all out, what we know we did good, what we didn't do so good. Mm-hmm. But one thing we did was we supported her, and we encourage you to support your child. Let them know that no matter what, you're going to believe them and you're going to stand by them. And we encourage you this day. We thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be with us. We appreciate it. And coming from They Don't Tell, you can reach us on Facebook. You can reach us, our Facebook page is They Don't Tell. Lisa R. Gray and my daughter, Nicole Gray. We so appreciate your taking the time to be with us today. Have a good day. Thank you so much for listening. I hope the information that we shared today was helpful and informative. And if you'd like to know more information about the topic of child sexual abuse, please join us at our website, lisargray.com. And also, if you are interested in sowing into the ministry, you can do so at that same website. You can contact us on our Facebook page, They Don't Tell. Thank you.